An inverted sit-up. That's what I was reading this morning about a young lady who's now paralysed because her personal trainer got her to do an inverted sit-up. It means doing a sit-up with your head underneath your body and coming up, like what you see in the old Rocky movies and stuff like that. And the challenge is that her feet slipped and she landed on her head, and now she's not going to have feelings in her hands or feet possibly for the rest of her life. So hopefully she does recover. But the question I have, what are you doing? What are you doing in exercise with your head below your heart, with your legs being held by a personal trainer, doing the old Rocky movie? So Rocky movie type exercises. Yes, it's great for the movies, but you know, if you do that in the real life, then you're going to probably have to live with the consequences. So let's have a look at the inverted sit-up. One of those things which I used to do back in the 80s. We're talking about well over 30 years ago, but people still living in that era of the 80s. Maybe in music it's safe because it was a great era for music, but not a great era for exercise selection. So the inverted sit-up, though, obviously the purpose is to train the abdominals. First of all, is it functional? What part of life are you hanging upside down and you have to lift yourself up? So from a functional point of view, it's not even relatively close to anything you do in life, because the role of the abdominals, or the abdominal region, the rectus abdominis, internal external obliques, the transverse abdominis, the multifidus, the quadratus lumborum, or the rectus spinae muscles that support the lower back and the pelvis, they all work in the upright position while you're doing squats, lunges, walking, stepping, running, and all those things. So yeah, so in the upright position, but what I'm doing is I'm getting my body and hanging it upside down and trying to train a group of muscles that function in this position, not hanging upside down like a fruit bat. Yes, and obviously that's not functional at all. The other aspect of it is doing that exercise. Yes, it works the abs, but actually the movement pattern puts shearing forces through the lumbar spine, so the loads go across the L4, L5, so that's going to put a bit of stress through the lower back. The other aspect is that you get a lot of hip flexion, so you're activating your hip flexors, particularly your iliopsoas muscle groups, your iliasis and your psoas major and minor. Obviously one of your hip flexors is your rectus femoris, but it doesn't, there's no major challenge with that one. But the iliopsoas muscles, they originate on your anterior lumbar of your anterior lumbar spine, and they insert obviously onto your femur. So when you're doing it, you actually, that muscle is pulling on your lower back, your lumbar spine, it's pulling in your lumbar spine to cause the hip flexion type movement, which tends to push the lumbar spine more into a bit more of a lordotic position. It creates a bit of shearing forces, and that over time can cause some aggravation and lower back pain. So if you haven't got fantastic stability, you're going to find that that exercise is going to aggravate a bit of lower back pain. So not only is it functional, but they're dysfunctional, but it's also quite can be possibly unsafe, particularly if you slip off the bench and land on your head, but also slowly if you keep pulling on those hip flexor muscles that keep aggravating the lumbar spine. So the whole point is, what is the point of doing such an exercise? It doesn't burn fat, because it's not an aerobic type activity. Yes, it does train the abdominal muscles, but they're far safer, better, more functional ways to do it. And you're not training the hip flexors, because you're not really going there, I want to train my hip flexors, you want to train the abdominals. But training the hip flexors at the same time can cause some lower back aggravation. So is there a better choice exercise? Absolutely. Better from a functional point of view, better from a result point of view, and most of all better from a safety point of view. So stop doing stupid exercises which could lead to injury, and even possibly, if you slip off, hurt your head, if not become paralysed. And that would be no cow poo.